9:35. And everybody's here, so we don't have to do roll call attendance. And our first item is a presentation and discussion with the ARM Student Council. So thank you for coming and chatting with us.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lena Holcomb.
I'm Nora Hanna.
And I'm Sofia Contreras.
We are speaking as co-chairs on behalf of the Amherst Regional Middle School Student Council regarding student well-being and the environment in which we learn. Please hold any questions until the end.
For a long time, students have been noticing issues within our school. One of these problems is Day 7. For those who don't know, we have a 7-day schedule consisting of drop days, and on Day 7, we drop guided study, aka study hall, and advisory. During the advisory period, we socialize and do team building activities with a group of peers and a teacher. Students have been complaining about dropping this day for years. Dropping Day 7 affects students because we cannot speak with teachers about grades or ask help with assignments. It also makes it harder for students with school sports and other after-school activities to complete homework. Some don't have time between school, extracurriculars, dinner, and sleep to physically complete the amount of homework assigned without needing to stay up to ridiculous hours of the night. Day 7 is unnecessary and should be eradicated.
It is common knowledge that our school that the conditions are deteriorating. The ceiling tiles are constantly falling off, leaving gaping holes, and if they remain intact, they have unsightly brown stains. The Environmental Action Club at the high school has even informed us that that actual black mold is present in the ceilings, which has not been confirmed as safe or unsafe, but that uncertainty is scary.
We are sure the committee is aware of many of these issues, but I'm not sure you understand how they affect the students. When we see our school in this state, this horrible condition, it makes us feel like the administration does not care about our school or about us. This may not be the case, but this is how it feels to students.
This is a place where we have to see every weekday for a large portion of our day. It hurts to see it deteriorating, and it is not only the students' fault. It is not the students' fault that our school is in this condition, yet we suffer daily because of it, with some people even getting hurt by falling tiles. This is not fair to us, and it must be addressed.
Another pressing issue at the school is the distribution of sports fundings. While we acknowledge that the budget cuts are causing a shortage of money, it remains unjust that some sports receive more funding than others. Football, for example, has both away and home jerseys compared to soccer teams which only have home or away jerseys. This disparity also raises concerns of sexism, given that our football team consists solely of boys. Additionally, many sports do not even receive complete uniforms, but rather just a top. In sports like track, relay teams must all wear the same color bottoms, or at least the same color, or else risk disqualification. How can we achieve that without full uniforms? We are aware that athletics covers most of all of the funding except for uniforms, which we are expected to reuse yearly, which is unsanitary and gross. How can we be sure that the previous wearer even washed it? And what about the people who don't have access to laundry in their residence? Overall, it is illogical and we do not receive enough funding for uniforms. We request that the budgets be examined and revised to ensure fairness for everybody.
Another thing is earlier this year, a complaint was filed with our temporary principal, Michael Sullivan, where a parent requested a food regulation to be implemented. Mind you, this was one parent. The caretakers of the other 399 kids at school were not complaining. This complaint was responded to with the enforcement of a rule from a district handbook prohibiting teachers from handing out candy or food to students. There are many problems with this ban. This rule prevents teachers from passing out food, so if a child were hungry, the teachers would not be allowed to help. Hungry students are distracted students, and if kids are unable to pay attention in class, nobody benefits. Not only this, but hungry students often wander the halls looking for food from the nurse or administrators. This allows students to avoid hard work or let them leave class whenever they feel like it. Candy also helps boost morale, and previous years it was used in the MCAS. leading to happier students. Other parents should also be taken into consideration. This was the result of one parent's complaint. So if that's what it takes to change a rule at our school, you should be asking the opinion of more than one person. We ask that this rule be modified to be more reasonable regarding food so students can receive the necessary nourishment from teachers who want to help.
Our next issue concerns the bathrooms. At our middle school, there are 3 female student bathrooms, 3 male student bathrooms, 2 single-stall gender-neutral student bathrooms, and 1 single-stall nurse bathroom accessible to all students. That totals 9 bathrooms. Students have complained numerous times about 75% of the stalls in these bathrooms being unable to lock. Having only 2 functioning stalls per bathroom is unacceptable. The situation is illegal, as we will explain later. However, that is not our primary concern at the moment. The bathrooms have been getting locked. Both this year and last year, the male and female bathrooms have been routinely locked. The school has attempted to justify this by blaming students for 2 reasons: vandalism and vaping. Someone reported vaping activity in the bathrooms, which led to the upstairs female bathrooms being locked, forcing us to go downstairs, taking more time away from our classes, and then getting in trouble for taking too long when we had to traverse across the school. You can imagine the frustration of going downstairs to find those bathrooms also locked. I have personally waited in line for nearly 10 minutes to use the gender-neutral bathroom, since all of the female bathrooms were closed. This situation robs students of valuable time that should be used for education. Not only is this inhumane and absurd, but it also violates the law and human rights. Section 4B of the Massachusetts Code 18.04, Physical Facility and Equipment Requirement states, day schools shall provide and maintain 1 toilet and sink for every 14 students. When all but 3 single-stall bathrooms are locked, this constitutes a clear violation of Massachusetts state law. Additionally, Article 33 of the Geneva Convention prohibits collective punishment. It states, no protected person may be punished for an offense he or she has not personally committed, end quote. The inability to relieve oneself due to others' misbehavior is collective punishment and is intolerable. Our solution to this problem is to end the locking of the bathrooms and maintain their quality.
Our final issue regards feminine hygiene products. Feminine hygiene products are lacking in the bathrooms. Over the past few years, multiple generations of female students have passed through the bathrooms, and those generations have all noticed one thing: there are no tampons or pads ever stocked in the bathrooms. Not only this, but the school charges 25 cents per imaginary product. We all live in the modern world, and I think that we know that kids aren't commonly carrying change on them. There are products in the nurse's office, and other students may have them. However, both of these cause unnecessary disruptions in class. It is ridiculous that our school does not attend to the needs of half its students' population. The Massachusetts Bill H.565, Section 3, Chapter 71 states, all elementary and secondary public schools in the Commonwealth serving students in any grade from 6th through grade 12 shall provide feminine hygiene products in the restrooms of such school buildings. Such products shall be provided at no charge to students. Such an amount can be adjusted from time to time based on utilization. School districts shall work to ensure that such products are available in a convenient manner that does not stigmatize any students seeking such products. We are in grade 7 and 8, yet the students at the Amherst Regional Middle School are not seeing results of this bill. These products are our rights, therefore we expect results. Bathrooms should be stocked with tampons and pads for free.
We thank the committee for its time and for listening to us. We look forward to the day when we can see these important issues addressed in our school, and we hope it is soon. The student body has complained about the problems within our school for years, and when these are addressed, it will be one step forward for the school as a whole. We will take any questions now.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for coming and for speaking so eloquently into the microphone. First, I want to say thank you for coming and for speaking so eloquently. It's not easy. We're Jennifer.
Hi. I'm sorry. Can you tell me your names again? I know Lena in the middle. What are your names?
I'm Nora.
Nora, Lena, and Sophia. Great. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. You guys did a great job preparing and delivering your comments. You can tell that a lot of research and thought went into them, so thank you. I'm intrigued about the dropping day 7 thing, which I think, Sophia, you talked about. Can you explain, like, what would be the consequence of, are you saying we should drop day 7, and what would be the consequence of that?
Well, I think the consequence of that would be that we would go from 6 back to day 1. So I think the amount of classes we have each week should not change that much. Day 7 is just there, I think, because they needed to round it out.
Okay.
But there is no real reason that it is there.
Okay. Thank you. You had mentioned in other of your topics talking to the principal. I was wondering if you had brought this idea to the principal, whoever's sitting in the principal chair at the time. Have you talked to the principal about this idea of dropping day 7?
We did speak to Michael Sullivan when he was the principal, like one time about this, and I believe he told us to speak about this at this meeting. So yeah, especially since he was a temporary principal, so he didn't have any real like power in the system, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Also, there was a few solutions that were told to us. There was one that was that the teachers had to vote on it, and then the other ones were just come talk to you guys.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm glad you did come talk to us.
So I did meet with the middle school student council, and that was during the time when we were also adjusting the budget. Mr. Sullivan did meet with them prior to that, and he was working on the schedule. I think that there is a conversation that has to be had around the parts of the schedule that the students do like. And from my notes today when we met, one of the key parts was advisory and guided study was very important because it allowed them to do their homework as well as to engage. I think that Mr. Rodriguez might be looking at rehashing that conversation. I know that Mr. Sullivan did propose a schedule, but I do know that that is probably in the works as well, because that's one thing that walked away from the conversation with them around.
Thank you. Irv?
Hey, Nora, Lena, and Sophia, thank you for this. You know, often when we sit here deliberating budgets, we don't sometimes put a human face to it or your student faces to it. And we need to know the consequences of our choices. What I want you to know is that the choices we make in relationship to the budget, especially in terms of the physical condition of the building, is really a top priority of ours. That it is hurtful for me that it gets to a point where students come to tell us what we haven't done. All right, so I appreciate you doing that, and it is necessary that these kinds of conversations happen with all of us. All of these, everything that you have mentioned has budgetary impacts for us. So that you brought this to our attention in the manner that you brought this to our attention is something that is important. And what I would like for you to do, if Scott Merzbach is the reporter who usually covers this, doesn't listen to the transcript of this, then I would suggest you get in touch with him and go over what you presented to us so there can be an article in the newspaper.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Hahn. Thank you so much for your presentation. I wanted to say I'm aware of how dilapidated parts of the middle school are, and it's really regrettable. I want to assure you it doesn't reflect a lack of concern or care about you, you students or your teachers or anyone who works there. The district is in a tight spot, and we're really sorry it is that way. And certainly that tiles are falling on anyone's heads. That's really unacceptable. So my apologies for the way things are.
Deb?
Also, thank you for speaking. I'm not going to make any excuses, so I'm going to ask the superintendent how we're going to fund those and how soon we can get those products into the bathrooms. And I'm also going to tell you, if you aren't aware, that there has been an air quality study that the superintendent did run within the last month. and there was no indication that there was black mold. So if you believe there is some, definitely bring it to any of our attentions, and we will follow up on that, either school committee, your superintendent, your teachers, your principal. But to the extent that we are aware, there is no difference in the air quality indoors and outdoors. There is mold in both the indoor buildings and the outdoor environment, but the tests that were done indicated that there was the same level of mold. There were some surfaces that were found to have mold. Maybe this is the mold that you're speaking of. I don't remember if it's black mold or not. But the custodial staff are engaging in a process of cleaning those surfaces according to the standards set forward by DESE. That's related to, there's like statewide standards for cleaning those surfaces. So I'm not sure the timeline on that, but definitely thank you for coming and bringing these things to our attention, and hopefully with that, we will be able to address those two issues relatively quickly.
Anna, did you have your hand up?
I didn't, but I do actually have a.
Oh, go ahead.
Cool. Okay. So, again, thank you for bringing all of these things to our attention and for your very well-prepared comments. I want to talk a little bit about athletics. So, I don't think you are aware, but the cost of athletics is largely supported by athletic fees. It is not, most of it is not actually funded through the school budget. And so I do think that there's some conversation to be had about how uniforms get paid for and who pays, if it's the booster club that pays for it, if it's the fees that get used to pay for the uniforms, and then if it's the fees, how those fees are allocated to the different sports. And that's definitely something that we can forward on to the athletic director about how those things get paid for. We've also had a discussion here about athletic fees and the most fair way to charge fees for participation in different athletics. And we are trying to get a sense of how much is spent for each different sport and how much different sports cost to play. But we don't want to charge more for certain sports that are more expensive and make them only available to families that can afford them. So we're trying to balance all of that out to try to make sure that everybody can play different sports and do it fairly. But I do think that the idea that the boys team, 100% boys team gets what appears to be more funding than some girls teams, we need to be very aware of that, and we'll definitely have the athletic director make sure that we're complying with Title IX. And then, I don't fully understand what's going on with the bathrooms. I do know that there's been a lot of concerns about inappropriate behavior, but obviously locking all the bathrooms so only 3 are available is not an adequate solution. So hopefully we can fix that. And again, hopefully we can get hygiene products into the bathrooms as well.
For the athletic stuff, we actually did get into contact with Ms. Dawson, the athletics director, and she did tell us that it is that sports are funded through athletic fees except for uniforms, which were bought like years ago, and they have just been repeatedly being used, so we don't actually get new ones. And when we said about like the track stuff being disqualified, we actually almost got disqualified last year because we didn't have the same shorts on. Like our entire team didn't have the same shorts, so they've stretched it for us so we can only have the same color. But it's not mainly just how the fundings are distributed. It's mainly just the uniforms, because football gets full jerseys and full on uniforms, while like the boys soccer team only has away jerseys and they don't have home jerseys.
you.
Thanks.
Can I ask
So-
a question?
What's that?
Can I ask a question about the soccer team?
Yep. We'll let Dr. Z go ahead. Oh, okay.
So there was an email that went back and forth, and I thought we didn't have a boys soccer team in the middle school.
We don't.
We do not.
Okay, so you're talking about the JV team? Okay,
I believe that's what the boys at the middle school.
the boys at the middle school, okay.
So first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that what the three of you did today is very, I'm going to say notable, but it reflects the hard work and the consideration, and more so the awareness of just being a community member in a school and speaking up for what's right. And I want to say thank you for doing that. And thank you to your parents who are here supporting you as well, and your broader community of friends and colleagues. Because I know it's about, when I went into the room, it was about 20 to 30 of you in the room with Mr. O'Connell. So thank you very much for your guidance and work as well. I wanted to start off by saying, when I entered the district in July, and there are members on this committee who received an email around this, I wasn't pleased with the state of the middle school in terms of the cleanliness and if it was prepared for school opening. And I pushed for the custodial staff to make sure that the middle school was clean. So I too, and when we met, I told you I had concerns with the middle school and the state. Couple of things, and everything that you have expressed here, I don't disagree with, but I do know that a lot of the things seem easy, but it's not as easy as it may seem because, for example, the budget, especially with athletics, this was one of the first years that the athletics director was able to sit down with the fiscal team and really hash out line by line what is being spent, how it's being spent. Ms. Dawson will not hide from anyone that most districts, when she goes to her athletics directors meetings and her and I debrief and we speak about it, most districts, sports and athletics are within their budget. And the revolving fund is used as a supplemental fund that could probably purchase uniforms. That is not how finances were created here. At some point, all of the athletics were on the revolving fund. The only thing that the district budget pays for is really the athletic staff. And this year, we moved the athletic trainer onto the overarching budget. There was a meeting, a school committee meeting a couple months ago, where there was a discussion around how do we fund athletics. And I firmly believe that we should be, as a school system, offering everything that we can to keep children in school. Because some children come for athletics, some come for music, some come for the academics, some come just to socialize and be with friends. And we need to create that environment for them. And so while I am here, I'm going to continue to work to see how we can address our budgetary issues, which also goes to how do we budget for maintenance and operations and facilities. When I asked, is there a line item by school, by what happens, it's not that clear cut. And our schools, deferred maintenance is a real thing in education. And when I say that, it means that when we defer, we put things off, and things have been put off for a very long time. It's not unique to Amherst. But it has impacted the physical state of our buildings. We have a new operations director who is present, Mr. Mike O'Connell. And when I had the conversation with him around the middle school, he said when he came in, one of the first things he did was walk the schools, and he's not pleased. And so he has a plan of action in place to address things. It's not going to happen overnight, but we are committed to making sure that the environment is one that's conducive for learning and meets the needs of everyone. I believe an order for some dispensers were placed for the high school at one point, and we're going to work to place an order for dispensers for the middle school. You guys were the first ones to send me into the female bathroom to go and look for it, and I did. I went and I looked. And I don't walk with any cash. It's not a thing for me, so I don't even know. I think at this point, do you have a quarter in your pocket? Like, you don't. So we do need to bring it up to code. And so that is something that, in speaking to him, he is looking into, as well as how can we clean the bathrooms, the tiles, everything, they need a deep cleaning. Some we need to scrub through. Yes, we need to address. And what I'm going to ask you to do is the same way how you are working here to advocate for your school, I need you to also advocate in your council with your peers that when this hard work comes to fruition, that they do their part so that they and the future students of the middle school can benefit from it. So the vandalism has to stop. The vaping has to stop. So I'm asking partnership from you in stating that as we work to bring it up to meet the needs of what you've asked for, that you can also assist us in messaging and telling us how do we resonate, how do we build relationships, how do we explain ourselves in your speak, your language, so that your peers can understand that, hey, they're working for us, but you have some work to do as well. Because once we put this effort in, we have to maintain it, yes, but maintaining it is one thing. Replacing it because it's vandalized is another. So I do think that we could work together as a team to make sure that as we work to put this in, provide updates as to where we're moving, what that plan is going to look like over the next year or two. And so we can get that moving. Ceiling tiles, thank you, Deb, for updating on the mold. You're correct. Our mold inside was no higher than what was outside. There were some surface areas. They were clean. The vendor that came in and did the testing told us that we actually had the product already in stock to do the cleaning. That was immediately done in the middle school. There was no black mold identified. In terms of the ceiling tiles, we do have roof leaks. We've been addressing those. We've been replacing tiles. I believe Mr. Gallo has his head custodian on like a walking rotation where they walk and they observe the different areas to see if there's any tile that looks like it needs to be replaced or removed. We do have to, in the region, we have the high school and the middle school to make sure we replace tiles. So sometimes tiles are on back order and we may not be able to replace them as quickly as we take them down. But we would prefer for them to be down and not falling on someone than to be up and wet. We did talk about the prohibiting of the distribution of snacks and food. We did talk about that, and I did look, I think it was in the handbook you guys sent me to go look at in terms of the archaic rule. One of the concerns, I wasn't just one parent, one of the concerns also is like food allergies and being mindful. So I think that it's something that we could work on for the upcoming year in terms of what are appropriate snacks or allowable snacks that can be distributed. And so that we're able to work within that realm, but also not impact our food services, because there are certain times of day that we cannot serve snacks. For example, it would impact the food that we are able to serve and the benefits. I'm not the food services guru. I'm sure Mr. Gallo could answer that if he had to, when we could serve snacks, when we can't serve snacks, what are allowable. But I do know that I think that there is a comparable list that we can probably create through partnership, and also understanding that some of the things that we may want, the Jolly Ranchers or the corn nuts, or I'm just calling things, may not be what we can say go on that approved list. So that's where I'm at. Some of these things are budgetary. We are willing to work to get them in. The day 7 schedule, I did speak to Mr. Rodriguez last week, and he is about to start up some work around looking at the schedule again, because I came back in and I said, I promise no day 7, but I also want us to look at the schedule. These are the two important parts that the students said they liked in the schedule, which is advisory and guided study. That was a conversation we had before. I told him when he's ready to have that conversation again, him and I could have the conversation and he could work with the team. But I do agree with you, and I agree that day and I agree again. And I think that we can get there again through partnership. So there's some work that needs to be done within our budget. I can guarantee you that for as long as I sit in the seat, the team and I will work towards that. Mr. Gallo has a plan for the middle school that will be enacted and moving forward. He's been on the job probably, 3 months? 3 months, and he's been moving and shaking. So you will see some small minor changes, but then we also need to partner so that when those changes come forward, because you did ask for them a while ago, so as we're moving, we also need to talk about how do we message and support that the student body now understands this is a reflection of everyone's work and it has to stay in place.
Thank you. Irv?
Dr. Z, that what you just said was excellent. what I would like to see is those same words being spoken to the student body. And if that is a possibility, if there's such a thing as an all-school assembly, because what you see, what you've said here goes to a really small minority, even though they are representing the student council. I believe that the entire student body needs to hear what you just said.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing all the information with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for bringing them.
Yes, and thank you to your families. And Mr. O'Connor. I would love a copy. Yes, absolutely. It is not, but it can be.
Okay,
I can scan
Yeah.
it and upload it.
we'll get with Megan.
We're good. Thank you so much. Okay. Okie dokie. All right. So our next order of business is to consider entering executive session. So the Amherst Pelham Regional School Committee will now consider entering executive session pursuant to GLC 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and I do declare the APEA negotiations with units A, B, and C with the intent to return to open session.
I know, but we haven't discussed that. We were going to discuss it.
Oh.
They were going to present it.
All right. Sarah?
Aye.
Irv?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Bridget?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
William?
Aye.
And Sarah Vess? Yes. All right. We are in executive session, and we will come back.
Yeah.
All right, I will call the regional committee back to order at 7:48. Bridget?
Yes, I'd like to call the Amherst School Committee to order at 7:48.
And I will call the Pelham School Committee to order at 7:49.
Excellent. All right. Public
6
comments.
cents.
So the first piece is easy. I did not receive any written or voicemail comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a public comment? Yes, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is William Roundy, and I am the Latin teacher at the high school, and I'm here on behalf of myself and the middle school Latin teacher, Olivia Blaze, to report on some recent successes we've had in our Latin program. The first is the National Latin Exam, which is an exam that tests students' Latin ability and classical humanities knowledge. 64 students took the test this year, and 44 of them scored on or above the national average, which is 69%, which shows that our program is strong when considered nationally. Students also earned 42 different awards for their participation in the National Latin Exam, which they'll be able to put on their job and college applications. They have fancy Latin names that sound really cool. We also participated in Classics Day last month. Classics Day is an event that takes place at UMass Amherst, where local schools come together and engage in various learning opportunities and competitions. 12 schools participated this year. I want to highlight the Kertamen competition in particular, which is a quiz bowl type trivia competition that students participate in groups of 4. Our teams won first place in novice, first and second place in intermediate, 2 separate teams, third place in advanced, and first place in the mythology competition, showing that we're successful not only in a national perspective, but also locally against our rivals like Northampton, McDuffie, and Williston. Go Canes. Our students also, 3 of them won costume contest certificates. We had 7 art winners, and we swept the podium in advanced Latin poetry recitation. Our Latin program is healthy and strong. We're teaching kids well. They're thriving in our classes, our welcoming communities, and our students are accumulating all sorts of distinctions that they can use for post-high school opportunities. So I just wanted to also mention for public knowledge, we're not running Latin 1 at the high school next year, so the entry point for any interested family or student is 7th grade, and that's the only one. So I would just encourage anyone who's interested in joining our really nice program, if you're curious about it, take it. And then in 9th grade, if you regret the decision, students can still join French or Spanish and get all the way up through the AP level in one of those languages. So they could switch, they could do 2 languages at the same time, or if they fall in love with Latin, that many kids do, they could just stick with it. And then last thing, if we have a positive budget outlook sometime in the future, a restoration of that class would be really awesome, but I do know that there are a lot of tough decisions being made. And then one other thing I just thought of, we're really appreciative in the language programs for the restoration of 8th grade to full year.
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, and congratulations to all of their students. All right. Nope, no further, okay. I did not finish writing any minutes. We have some gifts at the region. Are you all, hold up? Oh, I have black screen of death. I cannot pull it up either. Would anybody like?
I have it.
So I would like to move that the regional school committee accept gift from James and Barbara Pistring for number 2927 ARHS and ARMS Ultimate Scholarship, 2 scholarships at $500 each for a grand total of $1,000.
Second.
All in favor at the region? This is so easy with the hands. Excellent. Any opposed? Thank you so much to the Pistrangs for such a generous donation and gift. So our many warrants have been attached for your reading pleasure. Yes.
So that is up to this month, and so now we'll post them monthly going forward.
Say that again?
That is up to this month. So that is everything, now all the warrants have been posted up to May, and so now going forward, it'll be once a month, a batch.
Thank you. Okay. Chair's update. Margaret, did you have an update you wanted to share? You don't have to.
I don't think so. Oh, no, well, no, I'll have to
Okay,
wait.
okay.
I'll wait till the next one.
Bridget, did you have?
No, I
Okay. I have a little bit of one I would like to share. I can scroll back to the top of my screen. So, okay. So at the region, since our last meeting, 2 of our 4 member towns, both Leverett and Pelham, have held their annual town meeting and voted to approve our FY26 budget. Yes, super, super exciting. So thank you to Dr. Z and Tillman for speaking at the Leverett town meeting, and to Tom Hankinson of the Leverett FinCom for his presentation and support at the meeting. Pelham voted unanimously with 0 discussion to approve the 26 regional budget. And I want to say thank you to John Turkey for his support. And he wrote a report for the beginning of town meeting and talked his way through it. And again, thank you to Dr. Z and her team for coming to Pelham. And most importantly, I wanted to thank the residents of our member towns for supporting our schools and our children. And then last week, the Finance Subcommittee of the Amherst Town Council met to discuss the FY26 budgets for the schools. While it felt more like an interrogation than a meeting, I wanted to recognize Shannon Bernacchi, our Director of Finance, and Dr. Z for their knowledge and grace during the meeting, and my gratitude to Jennifer Shao, who's not here but was there, and for her consistency in pushing back when the counselors, I felt, began to overstep. So prior to the Amherst FinCom meeting, Dr. Z and Shannon directly received roughly 7 pages of questions from the counselors, and several more since then. With nor the chairs nor the committees being included in the request for information. I reached out to our district council to find out about communications between government agencies. And while often school committees have policies about communications between intergovernmental agencies, we do not, but it might be something that we want to look into. And while we can't dictate how other bodies behave, we can dictate and create our own policies and procedures for how those requests are handled when they come to us. So that's the chair's update. Are there any school committee announcement or subcommittee updates? Sarah?
Yes, the Budget and Audit Subcommittee of the region, which right now consists just of Sarah Bess and me. So Sarah Bess will need to appoint a new member at some point. We met on May 5th with Dr. Z and Shannon Bernacchi to discuss the FY24 audit, which is complete, and the financial statements that the auditors prepared, having done all their research and questions and visits and all that. Those financial statements are attached to our May 5th Board Docs meeting page, as is the auditor's letter to management describing, a lot of boilerplate about what they did do and they don't do. And it included 2 findings, meaning they described 2, they call deficiencies or weaknesses in the system that Dr. Z and Shannon were already quite aware of and already working to remedy. One having to do with payroll systems because there's still a lot of paper. Not everything is digitized, so there's room for error. And also one system in human resources that collects and maintains data that is needed for the various pension programs. So Shannon had already written back to the auditors with lengthy explanations of what is being done to rectify and improve those processes. But basically, I think the district is in good shape. So again, the audit report is attached to our May 5th board docs meeting. Shannon also said they were posted to the website, but I have not been able to find, I don't know where on the website, so.
We're working on the website.
Okay, so it's going to be uploaded, okay.
No, it's
So-
uploaded, but we're working on making the website easier for things to be found.
Okay, because I couldn't find it, and so I've told you where you can find it, or the public can, easily. Shannon also described at our request the whole process of closing out the fiscal year and preparing there's an end-of-year report for DESI, there's certifying like the free cash, the excess and deficiency, and then there's preparing for the audit, and walked us through the timeline for all that. So Sarah Bess and I both have that information, so it will help the chair in planning and our subcommittee in planning when we should be touching base with the business office, asking, so, okay, is that done? And just be more engaged through the year. And that's it.
Thank you. Any further subcommittee updates? Deb?
For the Amherst School Committee, the elementary school building will have its quote-unquote topping off ceremony on the 20th at 4. Now, there's a rain date that I don't know. I'm happy that I know the time. And that's when the building reaches its highest point and everybody goes, yay, we finally got here. And yes, yay, we finally got here. It's been a long time coming. That's one. I attended the Day on the Hill, which is the annual day where the Massachusetts Association of School Committees puts together an event where school committee members may or may not go to the State House and advocate to our legislators for money that they cannot provide for us because the House budget came out that day. There's discussion about having it happen in the fall or like doing it ourselves in the fall. I guess the one thing that I got from it was there may be less resistance on the Hill to re-looking at the charter school funding situation. We had been told by various legislators last year and even up till recently that there's no point in really working on that because they were powerful members of the Senate who had powerful seats, and it was just such a no-go that there was no point. And that narrative, or at least that is being challenged. Some of those people have moved on. So, and there's the sense that there's space to move. So let's see if we can move the Hill a little closer to Western Mass, where charter schools are kicking our butts. And then I just want to shout out both to the same people, Sarah Best did, Jennifer, Shannon, and Dr. Z for really being graceful under fire. At the Finance Committee meeting, I was not graceful. As some of you who were at the recipients of my text messages saw. Tell them this, tell them that. I would like to say that I think the sooner this committee moves forward in creating a committee where these towns can have these questions answered. They're not that the questions were necessarily wrong questions to ask, but the idea of having the budget review for FY26 be the place where they're asking random questions that have nothing to do with it is, in my mind, inappropriate and overstepping, and the sooner we both establish proper channels of communication, and the sooner we establish our own committee that invites the towns to, in a proper way, to ask this committee about financial planning, the more relaxed people might be. Thank you.
Any further updates? Okay. Superintendent's update. Dr. Z, take it away.
Sure thing. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to zip through because it's going to be, we have a couple more things to get to. So the superintendent's update today, we tried to make it a joint update, so I focused on some of the things we didn't get to hit in the last meeting, as always, our district priorities, student safety and well-being, healing and stabilization of the district, and data and accountability for equity. Our sports schedule is a part of the update. And so we have a lot going on this week, and our sports teams are moving. Lacrosse is moving. We have track. We had some individuals that traveled for track last week. So I know we got some updates, but I really would like to encourage everyone to support our athletics and support our teams. One of the key things that I think has been to the forefront of a lot of what we've been talking about is the caregiver code of conduct. And so I just wanted to give the community and the committees an update. March 20th, there was an introduction of the first draft and starting a lengthy feedback period and opportunities for discussion. And so the initial draft of the code of conduct was completed. March 20th started our open period. Revisions have been going through, and then we left it with the leaders for feedback, and that window closed May 12th. Once we are finished with the suggested revisions, we are then going to take one more look through and then send it to our legal counsel for their feedback and anything in terms of compliance, policies, anything in terms of past case law that we might need to be aware of. And then we have some next steps once we do the legal review, which is finalize, present the final draft to the leadership team for like, hey, this is our approval, and then develop a comprehensive rollout plan. The idea is that this is ready to roll out for the start of the new school year before students return in August. And so I know that in absence of policy, the superintendent gets to put procedures in place, and my idea is that this is more so going to be procedural, and so that we can kind of get that in place. We did some research. I haven't seen any other school committee with a caregiver code of conduct. I'm not finished with the MASC website, but I did go looking to see if there was any possibility to kind of make a suggestion to the policy subcommittee. But I didn't, so I'm not finished with my review though, so I'll go back up and see if there's any suggested policies so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. But this is something that started off in one school district, has extended to the regional district, so now it's really a great point for the joint committees in terms of speaking about it. And it's not about creating gaps in our communication. I think a lot of times individuals have expectations, and these situations get very passionate and powerful when we're talking about our children and their lives are precious, and sometimes it escalates. And so we really need to just set the tone as to when you come onto our campus, what are our expectations for interactions, and that's what the code of conduct really is going to do. And some of the feedback that we got was not just around the campus, but also talking about the school bus drivers and, coaches when students are at athletics. So a lot of the feedback stemmed beyond just the school, but also looking at school-based activities and things that we do. At the start of my tenure, I met with different community groups, and one of the requests of one of the caucus groups that I met with was to engage with HRC and to put forth the Welcoming Schools training. Since I gave my commitment and the district has been working, we were able to get funding, funding through outside agencies, funding through our own title funds. Is it Title I or Title II, Tanya? Title II, thank you. Our Title II funds, as well to move the training forward. So we gave our commitment as a district, and we've been working in the fall. On November 5th, the first training was intersectionality. May 7th, the training was on bias-based bullying prevention. All schools from all 3 districts have received training. Our goal is, sorry, thank you, Title 4. I know it was one of the titles. Thank you, Title 4. All schools are participating in the training. Our goal is to be the first districts to receive the seal. But it's more so than, to me, more so than the seal is about ingratiating things within our culture. What I've learned so far and what my understanding is so far, there needs to be a shift in not just mindset, but openness and addressing our own biases, realizing that inclusivity, diversity, all of the great catchwords that everyone says that we want to have, we really need to start living it and truly understanding. And so it's my hope that as we move forward, not just with welcoming schools, but as we try to move forward as a community, we start to shift and change that mindset so that we're creating the environment and the culture for our students to thrive. So our next steps is we'll continue training in school year 25-26. The district PD task force met today. I pulled together a group of leaders in the district to talk about professional development. One of the things that needs to come before the school committee, according to MASC, is a professional development plan. So we met today to talk about what our upcoming school calendar is going to look like in terms of dates. And in that conversation, we realized that there was a date that we missed in the calendar, so we have to bring the calendar back to the regional committee.
No.
But it's okay. It's okay. It was an oversight, but we owned it as a district team. But it's a gentle one, and we already have a fix suggested in place. So that's what collaboration is and working is. In terms of district events, it's the last few weeks of school. There's a lot happening in all 3 districts. Thank you, Deb, for the new elementary school topping off ceremony. The beam will be available from this Friday, May 16th, so students between Wildwood and Fort River and different teachers are all going to be out with their Sharpie, taking turn to sign. And then, yep, they get to sign the beam. So they'll be, yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, that wasn't what I was,
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about signing the beam.
no. I mean, does Crocker get to sign it?
No, yeah, we'll work it out. All right, so we will work it out with Derek and Alicia tomorrow. All right, and then there's some dates that are here. For example, I believe June 3rd is not on here, but June 3rd is the day when the students from the high school it's June 3rd, right? When the students from good, thank you, Megan. Students in the high school do their senior walk through the high school, but then they go to the middle school and then they go to their elementary schools. So I'm very, very excited to see that. The graduation is June 6th. We have field day, and then we have the stepping up ceremonies. So it's really, really exciting the last couple of weeks to see all of the hard work come to fruition. So thank you, everyone, and that's my update for this evening.
Excellent, thank you. Anna?
Have the other elementary schools already done visits to the middle school or 6th graders, I mean, or is there plans to have Shutesbury, Leverett, and the other, Pelham and the other 2 schools do visits, or is?
I think Pelham is on the 21st, according to this list. I can, so I don't always track, I don't always track the Leverett and Shutesbury, but we can definitely work together to make sure. I do collaborate with the superintendents. I can work together to make sure that occurs.
Sarah?
If I can ask about something a parent mentioned at a public meeting, I think, but not a school committee meeting. Am I right in thinking that the high school, was it the music program, traveled to Montreal?
Yes,
Can you
they
tell
did.
us? I would
Oh
love
my gosh,
to
so
hear more about that.
They did. They traveled to Montreal. And I'm gonna tell
This
you.
is the singers or instrumentalists, which?
I think it was both. And I will tell you, that kept me very, very settled. Thank you to Sam Camera who traveled with them. And so I got snippets, sorry, we didn't get to cover faces, so it's not there. I got snippets, I got the pictures of them before they performed at the Basilica. And I'm hoping this is loud enough. Can you hear it? Okay, wait. And I can go on. Wait, hold on. I have the, I think this is the video. I think this is, which band is this? This is the music festival. Oh, the orchestra. Hold on. I think this is them. Okay. So that kept me very, very joyful. So that did happen, and so congratulations to the music program from the high school who did travel to Montreal. It was wonderful. We were a little nervous, they got there, they were safe, they traveled, they performed, they did well, they were recognized, and then they came back home. So it was wonderful.
Thank you. William?
So quickly on the, I saw that you put on the Welcoming Schools evaluation, team training evaluations. So I just wanted to, I hope that the amount of people that responded on this evaluation form is not the amount of people that showed up for the training. I know that the high school only shows 8.
Just not everyone responded to this.
Okay. But I would like to, I guess, give a shout out. I'm not part of Amherst, but Wildwood had 45 people respond. So thank you very much, Wildwood, for taking this serious. I would encourage the other schools to ramp up their numbers, as the high school only had 8 people that responded. The middle school had 14. Pelham had 6, which might be half of the school staff there.
That is not half of the staff.
But anyway, I just wanted to say I really shout out to Wildwood and whatever their administrators are doing to encourage their staff to really show up and participate. It's obvious in this that they really did that. So I don't know what Wildwood is doing, but maybe our other leadership at other buildings couldn't take some of those things into play to encourage participation. And I guess the last 2 things. One, I hope that I'm very proud of the district for doing this, and so thank you. And I hope that we're able to make sure that people are participating in that. And I hope that administrators and building administrators and district administrators are doing those, coming to these meetings. 2 requests I would have would be, 1, could school committee members be part of those trainings going forward? I know that some of the trainings are going to be part of policy, so that might be important. And then the second thing is, if the teachers are feeling like this is not as productive as they want because they have already had a baseline, and they maybe need to take it further, then would we be able to open up communication from HRC to teacher representatives to make sure that they're getting the trainings that they want and taking the direction they want?
So I'm going to answer a couple things. One, in terms of Wildwood, what I can say is when the first training was done, I think some of the feedback, and so no, everyone did not respond to the survey, but it doesn't reflect the amount of individuals who participated.
Okay, that's perfect.
So I want to say that. I too sometimes go to trainings and do not complete surveys. So, but I will say that in regards to administrator training participation, I know for the district, we have been split on certain days, so we will work in the upcoming school year. And that was one of the things that we talked about today in terms of trying to identify PD days, what's going to be school versus district, and having the understanding of what will be held on what day ahead of time. I think that gap in communication and layout kind of caused conflicting priorities, so we worked on that today with a PD task force. The third thing was in terms, I can speak to Wildwood. After the first intersectionality training, Wildwood gave some really tough feedback, and some of the feedback was we felt like this was a repeat of what we did. What happened with the second training was that the presenter actually worked with the school leadership to kind of address what they had already had training on and tweak the training for them. So I do know that HRC is open, and if the other leaders are willing, then they are able to, and we can also encourage it. I do not know if that was like a singular like ask. Allison may have asked, and then it was like yes. So we will open a conversation to everyone, to the leaders, saying maybe for the next training, you can kind of work with the presenter to custom build it. And then I want to go back, and there was one more question you had, and I don't remember what it was.
School committee members could be part of this.
School committee,
going
I don't see why not.
Okay.
So I think it's just, once we finalize what the dates are, letting the dates be known. I would like to say that school committee has to be mindful that when there is a quorum, and to many of you, it becomes a public meeting. So I would ask you to provide me with the guidance into how many of you can be at what location. So I will ask it of the 3 chairs who are present to do that. And then Anna asked a question, and thank you to Marta for, my team is awesome, you guys. They listen to the school committee. They're not here, but they listen, and when things need to be sent, they text it real quick. So yes, there are days for Shutesbury and Leverett to go at the middle school. Shutesbury is the 14th, and Leverett is the 3rd of June. So, see? Thank you, team. Go, team.
Excellent, thank you. Tim?
Dr. Z has already answered, but I was going to reply that Principal Sibiadina reported to the Leverett School Committee that middle school representatives visited the 6th grade already at Leverett Elementary. It went very well,
Yes.
and the June visit has been planned.
Excellent, thank you. Deb?
So here we are, counting down days, right? That's what I see, at least in the front office here. And I'm wondering, I know it's been a chaotic spring, and maybe that's just the way springs roll, I hope not. But I don't have a lot of clarity on some of the leadership in the fall. If you have plans or don't have plans, but know what's happening with the middle school?
Oh, yeah, I said that the last meeting. The last meeting, I said by the end of May, I would be announcing
By the end of May?
the
Okay.
middle school leadership, and I said that right now the assistant principal is serving as interim principal,
Yeah, that,
and Dr. GB, the
Yeah.
dean, is serving as interim assistant principal.
okay.
So
So I just missed the May part, that's all.
okay, and then I explained that for Summit, there is an intended retirement of the principal. However, because of when the retirement sits in, we actually need to have a flow. So we did advertise for a full-time principal for that position. The interviews are to be scheduled soon. We got the suggested representative maybe from the regional committee. And so we will definitely be contacting and then moving forward once we have the date and on that one.
And then Fort River?
I'm going to say that that is a personnel matter. Right now, we know that the current principal is out on leave and intends to return, to my knowledge. And we are advertising for interim assistant principal. The reason being, as you know, that we are going from 3 buildings to 2 buildings. And so that kind of is going to shift what the leadership structure within the district for 26, 27 looks like.
All right.
And one more. Then the district, the executive directors, that's a system in place through the end of June, right?
Currently, it's a pilot, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Hi. Sorry, I had to step away. This has nothing to do with anything. I just wanted to put it out there that, because we were talking about, younger kids visiting the school. I know that it's a tradition for graduating seniors, at least in Amherst, to go back and visit their elementary school,
Yes.
which I think is a wonderful tradition, and I know the students love it and the staff loves it. I just wanted to say that next year's seniors, the class of 26, is the last class that will be able to go back and see Fort River and Wildwood when they're operational.
Correct.
So I just want to ask that, if possible, next year, like all the high school students get to do that, 9 through 12, because the next year's 9, 10, and 11th graders won't be able to go back and see Fort River and Wildwood because it won't be there or it won't be operational. So I just wanted to put that out there. I feel like I've mentioned this to the high school leadership, but like so long ago, and now it seems not as far away as it used to when I first came up with this thought.
I agree.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. Yep. Bridget?
I just wanted to circle back to something that the presenters from the student council mentioned, and maybe even if you talk to Michael and get an update, but like, if the law that they're citing is correct about 1 toilet and sink for every 14 students, how would that change when we move the 6th grade academy to the middle school? And then how does that interface with the conditions that the youth are already concerned about? So those are some things that just popped to mind when they were talking that I didn't think was fair to raise with them, but is going to be an issue with us.
And I smile with grace, and I will get an answer. There are a lot of things that I think was not fully fleshed out in the 6th grade academy plan. I think that the bathroom situation was one of them, and I think that's one of the things that I heard about when the whole conversation came to fruition. So I would say, as we continue to work, I do have a meeting set up this week with the leadership in the district to talk about how we plan to communicate over the next year with the community around, around the 6th grade academy and what that's going to look like, and just put like a communications timeline in place. I think that, for example, knowing I don't know if to call it zoning, districting, but redrawing the lines of who reports to what schools and those that, like, everything needs to be reported. In that, I also know there's some operational things that we need to address. So definitely, we definitely will go back and clarify that as we make the plan. But I know bathrooms was a question from before, and it will be a question again after.
All right, so I would like to move on to our next agenda item, which we have our follow-up conversation for the superintendent mid-year evaluation. Anna, Dr. Lee, do you want to start this conversation?
I'm gonna start. I don't know if Anna wants to start. I could just.
No, you can just go.
I could go. Okay, so I want to say thank you to everyone for your feedback. The time I presented these and gave an update, I did take the feedback, and then I was able to meet with Anna. Thank you so much for sitting through and providing that. I know I couldn't hear well, but we had a great conversation. And so I did go through the goals and update them and present them. I did some editing around the current work. And then what we had discussed was kind of like the last time I presented, I said in progress, things that needed to move. And so you'll notice that a lot of the language says, I'll continue this work, or I'll start this work, or moving the work into next school year. Also attached was, there were a lot of questions around use of time publicly as well. And so I went in and did some work and did some research. The average working hours for our superintendent ranges to somewhere around 200 hours per month. and could equate up to 600 hours per quarter. The hours that you see here are broken into early mornings, evening meetings, weekend events, and crisis management. High demand periods may push work hours even higher. And so I kind of looked at the strategy, look at the categories of time and kind of bucketed them. And this was something that we've been in discussion with. I think I've met with 2 chairs and been in discussion around time management and some of the feedback that was received. And one of the things that I noticed, and even in reflecting in this and working with my team, we've worked on my calendar, I think, repeatedly. Even this week, I now have to cancel meetings because by law, I have to have a certain meeting by a certain date, and I cannot say no. So now I have to go back to my calendar. So my calendar will repeatedly be an issue, and I'm just going to say that publicly. It's going to repeatedly be an issue because if the law says the superintendent has to do something in 3 days, I don't know about you guys, but there's certain colors and things that I would like to do, and the place that I would like to be in, I like to sleep in my comfortable bed at night, and so I do not want to be breaking the law. That's not something I would like to do. So I just want to say publicly to the community, like, my calendar is going to consistently change if something calls for me to be present for a child or for this district. So that's just something that I'm going to say publicly and say to this committee, and we'll just have to work on it. But when I sat down and looked at the breakdown of time, there's a chart there and it shows the percentages of where my time was spent in the year-to-date quarter. And you'll notice that 32% of my time was around strategy, personnel, and legal matters. That's human resources, that's labor relations and collective bargaining, that's policy, that's legal matters and litigation, prepping for litigation, because a lot of it I wasn't here for, so I had to read the history, I had to sit back, I had to research. Then you have family advocacy. There's 7.2% of school committee prep or responding. That seems small, but it's a lot. You guys are like 10 people that send 10 emails. So when we broke it down into the number of hours, you'll notice that 668 hours was like strategy, personnel, and legal matters, and that's year to date. And this was for our previous meeting, so this was till April. If I update this now, I'm sure it's going to increase. Family advocacy and student well-being hours, that's me meeting with families, dealing with student issues, that's about 400 hours. Academic success, 265, operations and finance. So you see where the bucket of the larger buckets of time, and the 2 is personnel, legal matters, operations and finance are the real big buckets. And then everything else falls into those areas. And so in reflection, some of the things that we're gonna work on, we're testing it right now in terms of Calendly links. And so what myself and Megan have done and we're looking at is we're gonna look at hours within my calendar that I can then release a Calendly link and have individuals have the free time to book. And that way they are not waiting for us to respond. And just for your knowledge, on Friday, we got down to less than 20 emails in my email. By Monday, I had 136. So it's not going to end. I'm CC'd on things, I'm a part of things, it's not going to end. The job of a superintendent is to make sure a system moves. It's to work on the system, not to work in the system. But I know that there's things that I need to be present for. So what we're working to do is to identify hours within my calendar within the day where individuals may be able to then book their own time to meet with me. So probably it'd be like 8 to 9 on Mondays, and it's just an open link. And if a parent needs to meet with me quickly, if an employee needs to meet with me quickly, they can use that Calendly link to schedule. I'm probably going to send it to 15 to 20 minutes to give me a quick overview, and then we can schedule another meeting. So a lot of what has occurred is a lot of reflection that's going to be seen in the goals and strategies, and so that's where we are today.
Thank you. Questions, and then you tell us what's next, or how should we do this?
Do we want to go over, do you want to highlight the changes that you've made to the goals, and then we can approve them or have a discussion?
That works for me. Does that work? I know there have been 2 hands that have already gone up, so.
Can I answer the questions?
Yep, we can do that way too. Jennifer?
So, Megan, can you go back to that pie chart? Thank you. Like, Dr. Z, what ideally would you want this to look like? Like, I think the blue is too big, but mostly because of the legal matters part. Because I know you're dealing, and you've mentioned you spent a lot of time dealing on legal matters that occurred before your superintendency. And that's lumped in with strategy and personnel. Strategy and personnel, I feel like, is appropriate for a superintendent to work on. I'm sorry about the legal matters part. But like, ideally, what would you want this to look like?
So ideally, student academic success would be the largest portion of my time. Because that is where the magic, and that is actually what an educational system is supposed to do, educate our students. But so that is where I would that is where the 30 to 40% should be.
Yeah.
Then I would say family advocacy and student well-being would be right after that. Again, because students, families are well, you know, student well-being, that's our mental health services, that's our, you know, just making sure our students have their like, there's so much. I want to spend most of my time dealing with children. Yeah. That's why I want to spend my time. And then everything else. And then operations and finance, because if we don't have the funding and stuff, then it needs to move. And then I can deal with the strategy and the personnel and the legal matters. And even when we meet with the unions, like having JLMCs, and that's a full Wednesday. And that's like tomorrow. That's my day from 8 to 5. I am meeting with unions all day. That's going to help us. The idea is that helps us to reduce our legal matters because we're quelling issues. We're addressing things. But that's just not where we are right now as a district. So ideally, thank you for that question, it would be student success would be the most of my time, teaching and learning.
Thank you.
Sarah?
That was my question.
Tim?
I think that was a very good question, and I wonder if it would be worthwhile to set a target for that slice of the pie integrated with your strategic planning, which I know adds more work to the strategy slice of the pie, which maybe goes in the opposite direction of where you want to go. But is that a reasonable target to set that we could then, and I don't know what period of time would make sense, but if we looked at this pie chart in a year, what would need to happen to see, let's say, 20% student academic success?
I have a meeting tomorrow morning. Is tomorrow or Thursday? Tomorrow or Thursday?
Today's, oh.
No, what day I have the meeting? The one about the 10. Oh. Thursday. I have a meeting Thursday morning at 9 a.m. It's not going to be a year. But what I did do, and I think answering Anna's second question about the changes, is what I did do is start to look at, as I work, and I always talk about reflection, look at what we're currently building in terms of initiatives. So a lot of the language that changed was talking about, for example, Deb the last time said she didn't see the portrait of a graduate in my goals and strategies. So I incorporated specifically where I was like, I'll initiate the development of a district-wide portrait of a graduate to define the goals. I will collaborate and work to revise and strengthen district priorities. Where I get to answer your question is around, and we talked about this, Anna, 4, strengthening professional culture and operational systems, and going in there and talking about laying the foundation for stronger professional culture. And this year we'll focus on establishing clearer communication structures, improving time management and cabinet organization, expanding instructional leadership presence, strengthening conflict resolution system, identifying early de-escalation efforts to reduce unresolved conflicts and the escalation of complaints. So again, thank you to Anna for being a good thought partner in how do I incorporate some of the things that we're seeing that adds to that 31% to kind of shift it. And I think that in a year or two, maybe not next year, but the following year, it'll be a larger gap in instruction. But there's a lot of base work that has to be done in terms of how do we adequately resolve issues, putting some structures in place procedurally. What does that look like in terms of documentation? There's a lot of internal conflict within the school buildings, and that has caused us to be where we are with some of our MCAT and legal cases. And so those are some of the high changes, even working with human resources to draft conflict resolution procedures and early intervention strategies. So one of the things Jen and I spoke about was looking at all of the cases that we even incurred this year and say, how did they, what stemmed from it? What are the steps that didn't happen for them, and how did they escalate to this point? So every time I sit through a hearing with I had a meeting with the union on Monday, and they brought up something that happened last year, but still affecting an employee this year. My question to the employee was, how do you think we got here? And they were like, I really don't know. And so a lot of this is, how do we de-escalate before it gets to the point of complaints and things like that? So we're trying to work in that regard too.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any further questions, follow-up? Deb?
So I was reading the contract, your contract, and we're supposed to be starting to work on next year's goals. And these are tweaking the year that, I mean, I know we didn't get to it last meeting, and there have been lots of issues that have come up, but how does anybody want to talk about how the pieces fit together? Because we're tweaking something that's...
So Deb, I think if you read them, and Anna and I kind of talked about that, they actually lay the framework for next year, because some of it says, I will lay the groundwork this year for for improved district communication practices, including planning for clearer expectations. These practices will be fully launched and expanded district-wide in the 25-26 school year. So Anna did ask me to connect the two.
So if we approve these, we're sort of not having a full discussion about the next year, about next year's goals.
No.
No.
This discussion isn't about next year's goals. Next year's goals have to be voted in September.
But if they're connected, if this year's goals are connected to a follow-up for the following year.
That's usually how the goals work.
Okay.
They,
all right.
yeah,
Okay,
in my
that's-
experience, not necessarily with Dr. Z, but when we have a superintendent that is here for more than one interim year, then we can connect the goals from one year to the next year. And they can be more long-term, like, we're starting this year, it will take 3 years or whatever to fully implement whatever this process is. So
You don't have to have brand-new goals every year.
this, yep.
Does that lock us into not being, okay, that's all I want.
No, the same way how we're updating,
Yeah.
like right now, is the same way we can update, because
Okay.
by the time the school year starts, we may be at further progress where some of these strategies are gonna drop off,
Okay.
or even there might be something that comes up at the end or the start of the school year. And when we get to the midpoint again next year, we'll be to the point where we're meeting and like, hey, Dr. Z, I think based on what we've seen in the past 6 months, this needs to come in, just like the time management and those types of things.
We'll try to do it at the midpoint.
It is, so I,
4/5
yes.
of the year.
Right.
I will say I have been working on the calendar that includes all of those pieces, and it is almost ready. It will be ready for planning our next year conversations. Sarah, I see your hand, Tim.
I pass.
You're all set. Tim.
Thank you. So since I'm new here, Deb said about how do the pieces fit together, I would like to understand what is our process for assessing, evaluating? How has progress towards these goals gone? When does that happen? How do we do it?
Yeah. So we have a superintendent evaluation subcommittee, which was part of this conversation, and I think probably this month they're going to have to meet, and they design a rubric for matching the goals and the DESE standards. So once the rubric is done, we'll vote on it as the evaluation tool. Dr. Z will then present, we will have another lovely joint meeting. Dr. Z will present artifacts showing, work towards the goals that have been set. And then the school committee members use the rubric to evaluate. And then we will come back together and have a summative review.
So it's essentially a questionnaire.
Yeah.
Every school committee member individually fills out the questionnaire, and then we compile the results and present them to the public at the end, and then have a discussion about what that looks like.
Thank you.
Sarah?
I would add that Desi tells us how to do this process, and every district does it the same way. And if you go on the website, you can read a lot about superintendent evaluation.
It's actually really frustrating, but that's what we do.
And I have a suggestion for the tool, Anna. So at some point, if we can meet
Sure.
to talk about it, I would like to suggest a way to compile it and have it digitized.
It is digitized. I have been doing it. So last year when we did it, I did it on SurveyMonkey. But yes, let's talk.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion, or do we need to vote? We need, okay.
I would make a motion to accept the goals and strategies as presented tonight for the region.
Second.
Thank you.
Now we can have discussion.
Correct. Why not?
William and then Anna. Is there any further discussion at the regional level? Okay.
Wow.
All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Excellent.
So I would move that Pelham makes the same motion.
I will second that.
Any discussion?
Is there any discussion from Pelham? All right, all those in favor from Pelham? Thank you.
Just to point Sarah Best, I think for the region it was 8, because I think Bridget has left.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I move the same for Amherst.
I'll second.
Seconded by Sarah. Any further discussion? All those in favor in Amherst? 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you, committees, and I look forward to the end of year. No,
Thank
the
you,
next
Anna.
3 to 4 weeks.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Student Opportunity Act update. Ms. McIntyre, care to join us, please?
Sorry.
I'm not jumpy.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, it's candy break. No, thank you. So thank you all. I'm going to talk about the Student Opportunity Act and give an update. One thing I did do, and I put it at the very end and did not add it to board docs because I was going to come to each town, or excuse me, each district to do it. So there's some data that goes along with it, and I can still do that or just send it to you all, the breakdown for the data that goes with it. So for our purposes, I put each district's plan attached to this slide, and we're just going to review some of the progress, highlight the impacts, and then review some early outcomes. It initially says attendance data, but I want to say here that our data dashboard does have, there's some discrepancies around the data, so Dr. Z is going to have another attendance presentation for you all for each district. We want to ensure that the information that's given is correct, and it's really around how we're counting chronic absenteeism, and that's a big part of the SOA from last year. And then we'll preview and outline some next steps for FY26. So I included an acronym glossary. You're welcome. This is a forward-facing document for the public as well, so I wanted to make sure that they, as they read through it, would understand what was there. I think there were 2 that I forgot because it doesn't apply to all districts. One was WIDA, and then Access, which applies to the region for their SOA plans. The targets that were shared amongst the 3 districts were English learners, students with disabilities, low-income students, and Black, African American, Hispanic, and Latinx students. And some of the focus areas were SEL, curriculum quality, mental health, attendance, and family engagement. Those were the things that were in common. I would like to just point out that with the SOA plans, it was unfunded for Amherst regional public schools. So there is, the law happened and it was funded for select school districts, but it was not for any of our 3 districts. So here is where we put monies aside for these particular initiatives through the plan, but it was not funded by the state. So there is no additional funds that came in to help fund these projects. First, the DESA mini screener. It is an evidence-based universal screener around SEL, social emotional learning interventions. It was already being used in our elementary schools, and this year was the first year that it happened in the middle school as well as the high school. And listed, I said, it happens during advisory periods for the middle school and then B period for the high school. And I also listed a couple of measures there. It really is around trying to get ahead of and be proactive to see if there are needs students might be having, whether it shows up around social awareness or self-management, those kinds of things. In the region, some of the highlights for the progress was all the staff was trained in welcoming schools. Again, even though the survey rate might have been low, all district staff in each of the districts did have this training. The Family Center embedded people at the middle school and the high school to work directly with families so that they're more targeted versus being at the central office. The Morning Movement program has been expanded to 64 students this year, and our SEL curriculum is in 9th grade, as well as their ELL electives for our SLIFE students. And SLIFE is students with limited or interrupted formal education. So again, there is that acronym chart at the beginning. In Amherst, some of the progress highlights, again, were all staff trained in welcoming schools. The DESA screener was implemented for SEL planning. Dual language program, coming on to this, is now in grade 5. And then piloting for K2 writing, think SRSD, and then in K2 structured literacy, magnetic reading foundations. And for Pelham, we have FY25 progress highlights where, again, we have all staff trained in welcoming schools. Our family and SEL systems were implemented there. Caregiver SEL outreach events happened, and Character Strong fully implemented in the school district. Signs of progress across the 3 separate districts. In Amherst, Crocker Farm was named 2024 School of Recognition by DESE. In the region, our high school had 70% of 10th graders students meeting or exceeding expectations. And in Pelham, 57% of students met or exceeded expectations in both ELA and math, while there was a referral drop in by 57%. And I think that was due to the SEL curriculums that's been implemented there. With family engagement, the Family Center is active. The Family Center is everywhere. The Family Center is exactly where they should be, in the schools, working with families. And Dr. Marta just does an excellent job with her group as they work and reach out to different schools and making sure that families feel connected and a sense of belonging to the district. We have interpretation services. Katie was working with the MLLs to make sure we have that available. Seth does our parent-wide, our districts-wide Parent Square communication system, as well as what happens at each school with the Parent Square. Caregiver participation in our student supports teams is and curriculums events have increased, and every caregiver counts. Dr. Z just mentioned that today, where we're working on those. So that is to reflect exactly what we want in terms of how important our families are to our school system, but how important it is for our students to feel academic success through that interaction of families. And then finally, we are still focused and clear on the importance of the SOA initiatives and priorities. Right now, what we're seeing, there's some early signs of progress of what's happening in our schools through the SOA focus. iReady growth is happening across our elementary schools, Pelham and Amherst, and attendance strategies are beginning to work. Again, with the discrepancies in our dashboard, that's going to be a separate presentation. I want to just say that as we move forward, we want, as a district, to make sure that we're focusing on professional development. We know when we strengthen teacher practice around inclusive instructional strategies, because a big focus of the SOA was around diverse learners, be them diverse in race or income, disability or abilities, those things. We want to make sure that our neurodiverse students and all of our students have the kind of instruction they need to really make the gains that we want to see. We want to adopt high quality instructional materials, HQIM, across the district. We know that is a big lever for equity, making sure that all students have access to that, and then make sure that we're evaluating our SEL implementation so that all students feel that they have access to supports both mentally as well as socially in our schools. So I want to thank you. I did a high-level overview, but here's what's to come. Each of you will, each district will have special data that goes through based on your district's priorities. So for instance, I'm showing you here, not in your slide deck, but access testing, the ELA and MCAS testing, and so on. So I have that for each of our districts, and I want to make sure that I do take time to provide you with specifics around your district's needs and your plan. So with that, I will open the floor for high-level overview questions, but you can please feel free to send me specific questions for your district so I can make sure when I do that presentation for that information for you, I have what you need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Yes, thank you, Tanya.
Thank
Can you say more about the HQIM review? Like, I assume, I mean, how do you know whether a particular curriculum or materials already is high quality? You must have to do some assessment of every single piece of curriculum in every district and then decide what needs to be improved and then figure out what are your options. So can you talk about where in that, as I imagine it, that kind of flow chart of work you are, or are you picking some areas, particular areas you know need improvement?
Sure. So with Amherst and Pelham, 2 years ago, when the SOA was first adopted, that work began then. And so the work went through a rigorous review committee that was selected, and they reviewed ELA and math curriculum. And so that's why we started with some of the iReady. Yeah, so that came from there. And those were the two districts that talked about the HQIM. It didn't happen in the region. But we're now just in the phase of implementing. So we started with the pilot 2020, this is the third year, so 2022, around math. Math is where it started. And then last year was the intersection of the reading that was implemented. So now we're everybody's piloted. Pelham had a wonderful kindergarten group that piloted the reading as well. And so next year we'll move towards implementing it across the districts, plural.
Super.
Yes.
And then how are you going to gauge whether that new curriculum is more successful? I mean, you're going to look to student outcomes, I assume. So that's MCAS results or some other that like that, what iReady itself can generate for learning?
So right now, what's in the SOA is around MCAS and iReady. So we will be looking at those measures, but I think there's also some other measures we can go around, some student survey results, teacher implementation results. Learning walks, I think, will be a very big way for us to gauge what's happening with the instruction, and because the curriculum's one thing, but the instruction's the other. Oh, that's exactly right. So we will take a look at that, multiple data points, so not just one point in time. And it's important that we focus on all of that, because that's really where we're going to see gains if we really attend to all of those pieces. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further?
I'm sorry, I'm
I'm going to
pointing.
go back to the beginning, the money part.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know we got no funding through the Student Opportunity Act, but you have numbers here. Can you tell me how those numbers relate to our budget? I mean, do we just implement these through our regular curriculum? We don't have additional people to help with this?
So the numbers that are here came from your plan, and I say York, at the time it was, the plan was created and voted upon prior to this year. So this was the way that it was dispersed. However, I will say that probably the problem going forward is, since it's unfunded by the state, we can't keep up with the funding necessary for each parts of this implementation. So I'll let Dr. Z
So
say
that's,
more.
that is a part of the issue. For example, central office reductions this year included positions that were not intended, that were not previously budgeted on our budget, on the FY25 budget, that could not roll over to FY26, so had to be reduced. Because a lot of the work that was being done was very relevant and important to what we're doing, but because it wasn't funded, and then some of it, the district had identified some grant funds that we also didn't receive. And so now we're waiting to see if we're gonna get some other grant funds. So I think what has happened is like puzzle pieces for programs. That's why, for example, Welcome in Schools, it was an outside agency that paid one portion, Title IV paid one portion. We had a community member that was willing to host dinners to pay another portion. So the work continues, but we've been puzzle piecing, or in my term, I told my team today, I was raised by my grandmother, piecemealing the whole thing together to kind of make it work. So that's what's been happening. We've been trying to find a way to implement parts of the SOA within the realm of the budget that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have Deb and then Jennifer.
Hi, this is great. And yes, you came in year 2 of a 3-year plan. In terms of targeting the disparities in the subgroups, you gave us some aggregate data for the schools.
So I have disaggregated data for each district.
And that's what you said originally.
Yes.
Right, and
yes.
you would attach that.
Yeah, I will attach it for each district because I didn't want it. So each district chose some data points. So the region has MCAS, Access. Amherst and Pelham have MCAS and iReady. And so it would be a longer conversation for all 3 districts because each of the districts wanted to see race. You want to see 504s and IEPs, also low income and English learners. So that would be those 5 breakouts for each of the testing for each of your schools in each of your districts.
Yeah.
I got that this year. So I'm celebrating myself there. Got it right.
Yes, you very well should. Were you, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Yes. So if you tell me, I make sure I have it
No,
for
it's
your
just not
district.
about the data.
Okay.
So maybe it's not a follow-up, but I'll ask it anyway. So is there, because it's the second year of a 3-year program plan, are there things that you can add or modify, or do we just need to go through with it the
Yeah.
way it was set up?
So each school committee voted on your plan, and that's
Yeah.
the plan that we work with. If there can be reductions or changes, like for instance, if we have difficulty with funding, which is where we are, we will say that would be the adjustment to the plan. But there's not now add stuff to your SOA plan. It is reviewing the plan that you all worked tirelessly on to put together for us 2 years ago. Yeah.
Thank you. Jennifer?
On the signs of progress slide, I think it's page 14, Megan, if you wouldn't mind. There is, there's some data points, but like the second, like the Crocker Farm one I get, the second one, ARHS, 70% of 10th graders met or exceeded expectations. Like that number in and of itself doesn't mean much. Like it's good if last year it was 65, but it's not good if last year it was 75. But you say it's improving. So what
Yes.
was it? Do you know what it was last year? I mean,
I will tell you. school, so high school ELA in 2023 was at 66%.
Great, good. And so then I guess I have a similar question about Pelham, even though I'm not
Oh.
part of Pelham. But I mean, you don't have to look it up, but I just feel like these numbers, these snapshots in and of themselves, like you need something to compare it to. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
So it was initially supposed to be separate
Gotcha.
things, so I tried
Yeah.
to put it together
Appreciate
for the
that.
three. But yes.
You still did it.
Yeah.
That's right. But for each of your districts, you have the comparison
Okay, you'll give us the
information.
data.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, so next up is our joint policy.
So I had a quick conversation with
Yes.
Sarah Bess and IKE and IKF, even though you maybe have lots of comments about it. We have not done that, so that was
They are
not supposed to be on
postponed.
the agenda. It was a mistake on communication. I take full ownership of it. It was not Sarah Bess. Anyway, those two we're not doing today because we haven't done them, so they're not first reads of anything. Can you go to the BEDA one that has May? So I sent new attachments to Sarah Best today also, so that's why there's so many attachments on there. So if you go to the ones that have May, those are the ones we're gonna look at tonight. And the rest are just there for historical purposes, I guess.
Yep.
So if you go to May
Historical
2025,
Oh, okay.
and it's the, oh, sorry, I went on the wrong one.
No, that's,
Yes, the BEDA, we'll look at that one first, which is up here.
okay.
So we added, and the yellow is the additions that we added the last time. This time we added and Union 26 in that second paragraph. There is a hyperlink for board docs of where it is at. And those were the changes that had been made, the minor changes that were made to the first read. So if anyone has any questions.
I move to approve policy BEDA as presented.
Second. Any further discussion at the region? All in favor? Excellent.
I move the same for Pelham.
I second.
All those in favor?
And I move the same for Amherst.
Second?
Second by Sarah. All those in favor? 4-0.
Can you go to KE, May? We'll look at KE next. So the stuff that's in yellow now is what has been changed from the last time. So based on some comments we added in the individual at the very beginning. And then the last paragraph has been changed a little bit to address that it's being investigated by the committees. And then the very last question was more from Bridget, talking about if someone could not do the written statement for whatever reason, be it based on their abilities, this is kind of like to say that we could still hold that, but it would be a different way. Any questions?
I move to approve policy KE.
Second. Oh, Tim. Yes. For the second. Any further discussion at the region? All in favor? Excellent. 8-0.
I so move for Pelham, the same.
Second.
Oh.
It was
And
a
you're
tie.
typing.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
And I move the same for Amherst.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0.
The next, we'll look at the EHAA. And this was the policy that goes along with the WISP procedure. We're not looking at the WISP procedure because that is up to her. So this is just the policy. We had no changes based on the last time. So this is the same as it was then.
I move to approve policy EHAA.
Second. Any further discussion at the region? All those in favor? Whipping through it, yes, love it.
I make the same motion for Pelham.
I second.
I was worried. Any discussion? No? All those in favor?
I move the same for Amherst.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? 4-0.
And our last one is just the ACAB. There was no changes because it's just a minor adjustment to the whole policy. We didn't really change the policy, but I figured we need to have a second read since we already had a first read, so. Anna?
Wait, which one?
It's it's ACAB.
Oh, I move to approve policy ACAB.
Second.
Any further discussion at the region? All those in favor? Excellent.
I move the same for policy, for Pelham, for policy ACAB.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
God.
And I move the same for Amherst.
I'll second.
Second by Sarah. Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0.
Can I say I don't know that we need to vote for such just updating?
It was we had done it, so we already did a first read on it. I just thought it would be more formal.
But going forward, just like
Yeah,
if someone's phone number changes, I don't think.
It was a whole different contact, and anyway,
Okay.
we just presented it that way. But I hear you, going forward, we don't necessarily have to.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, policy committee.
Next up is future agenda planning.
Calendar.
Yes.
Calendar revision.
It's the school year calendar? Yes. Anything, Deb?
I think it would be helpful to the public if we could have insight into, what changes, specifically what changes have taken place due to budget reductions. I don't know if we'll have that by then, by the next meeting, but also what changes have taken place this year due to prior budget reductions. Just to get a sense, the context is the Amherst town manager has stated that his budget is a level service budget, and there's been some conversation about the fact that it hasn't been for the schools, and I don't think that narrative has been in the evolvingness of all these budgets.
You'd like me to show how each year the level services means that every year we're giving the same level of services. You want us to show over the years how each one of the budgets have shifted and changed, and positions or things have.
Positions, programs,
Okay.
all of that. And I don't mean going back to the year.
At least 2 to 3, last 2 years? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ms. Margaret?
Question, I guess, when we don't have a lot of time left for meetings, I'm wondering which meeting do you expect to have the rubric for evaluation?
I think it should be soon.
Next week is what I said.
Okay. We'll have it ready for next meeting.
Probably so, right?
Yeah.
Because we have
So
to
we'll-
gather it.
We'll have a draft for the next meeting, and then we can vote on it, or make modifications to it and finalize it either that meeting or the next meeting, depending on whether people have a lot of issues with the rubric.
It sounds like we can connect about the timeline for the rubric, and then the chairs can connect about scheduling another joint meeting, so it can be updated/approved.
Okay,
And
great.
Sarah?
And you're also scheduling for the artifacts presentation and.
Yeah, that
All of
is
those
part of
things.
it, yep.
Yeah.
We'll get a time flow.
Tim?
At the May 3rd,
Oh, no.
my little fluffy thing fell away. Thank you. Okay, fluffy thing restored. At the May 3rd Leverett Town Meeting, there was discussion during the regional school budget vote about what can we do to start looking as a committee at the regional agreement. And I would like to, without, expecting, a creation of a subcommittee or anything in the near term, but I would like to have that on the agenda persistently so that we can start to discuss how can we evaluate the regional agreement as it is currently written and figure out how might we change it if we decide to change it at some future date.
Okay. Sarah?
Yeah, I would just add to that, I don't know if it's Mark Terry maybe, or maybe the superintendent knows what the legally required process is and what's the time frame.
I do.
I mean, it's long and it's got lots of moving parts, so we should know, like, how quickly or not quickly we will be able to do this when we want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do.
Good, okay.
Okay. If, in the meantime, other things come up, guys feel free to reach out.
I don't, go ahead.
Anna?
I would like to have this can be much further in the
Our
future.
future selves?
Yeah, but I would like to have a conversation about lunch menus. It has come to my attention that the vegetarian option is the same every single day. It does not change. Well, unless the main dish is by chance vegetarian, then it's just the main dish. But if there is no main dish, the vegetarian option is a black bean burger.
Where?
The high school?
Okay, thank you. Because that matters.
But I don't think it's a lot better in the middle school. And
I
but
eat
I'm
lunch
not
in the
sure.
middle school, so.
So you think the vegetarian option in the middle school is actually
No,
more varied?
I eat lunch in the middle school. I mean, not every day, but I mean, it helps because I don't have to run out and come back. I know they have a salad bar. There's different things that are there. So I know they have changing options. I don't know if when I go, the options change, but but I will definitely look into the menus so that we could and work on that.
Yeah.
Jennifer, did you also have your hand up?
I
I
did, but
imagine
for the
that.
next agenda item.
Okay.
I move we adjourn the Amherst School Committee.
Second.
All those in favor? Amherst is adjourned.
I will move to adjourn the Pelham School Committee meeting.
Second. I'll give
All
it to you.
those in favor?
So I call to order Union 26, as I see we have a quorum at 9:17. You get to leave.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, no.
No, and the region gets has to stay. Just Miss Margaret gets to leave. and
Only what?
You can leave.
No, I'm part of Union 26.
Yes, Margaret is part of Union 26.
Margaret, you have to stay forever.
Actually, the superintendent gets to leave.
Mrs.
Have
Dr. Z.
a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Z.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Z.
Okay. Oh, double. Perfect. So I will move for the region, that the Regional School Committee will now consider entering executive session pursuant to GLC 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Superintendent Dr. E. Leomar Herman, with no intent to return to open session.
Second.
Jennifer.
Was that Jennifer?
I am.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Irv,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Tillman.
Oh.
They're similar.
Point of order. So, yes.
Been watching. William
Yes.
and Sarah Bess. Yes, I am very sorry.
You can beat up on me all you want.
So the Union 26 will now consider entering executive session pursuant GLC 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Superintendent Dr. Z, and with no intent to return to open session.
Second.
Sarah Bess. Well, yeah, I'll go this way. Sarah Bess?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Deb?
Yes.
Irv? No.
Nope.
Oh, not Irv, sorry. Jennifer?
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Oh, and Margaret. Sorry.
yes.
So we are now in executive session. Sorry, Margaret.
It's getting late.
It is. Oh, man.
You know who isn't
Yeah.
here to tell us.
I try and